Hello and welcome to Past Your Bedtime. My name's Bev. When I was at school, science and me didn't get along. I just about had a grasp of physics, largely when not to touch things that looked hot or sparky. I missed out on biology because of a change in schools, but all I heard was that some of the girls fainted because they had to chop up frogs, so I'm not sure that I missed all that much. And as for chemistry, well, the less said about that the better. But I'm sure that since the introduction of STEM education, children now have a far more applied basis for learning the sciences and an easier route to understanding how it should all interconnect. My guest today had her own light bulb moment when she realised her love for the science of genetics could marry up nicely with her love of cattle. Growing up on a small farm, Harriet had spent plenty of time around cows, such that when she moved into a role as a beef geneticist, she was ideally placed to translate the science into the language of farming. It's for this reason that Harriet's easy bedside manner makes her the perfect person to invite along to the podcast. And I started with the obvious question.
There's a fair few things I wanted to ask you about, but I guess the first question should be, what does a beef geneticist do?
I mean, that's the magic question. And I think if you'd asked me 10 years ago what I thought a beef geneticist does and what I do in my job now, they're probably a little bit different. But I guess the crux of it is science, right? So it's using the data, doing research, and coming up with conclusions and insights that are really useful to real beef farmers. And I think it's that bit that is actually, I do a lot more of that these days and is really important to me.
Real beef farmers as opposed to what?
Academics' imaginary idea of what a beef farmer is.
So it's a political viewpoint, isn't it, really? I know we've spoken before. I'm interested to recap on your journey to this, because if you've been doing that for 10 years, how did it all really start for you? Why that career path?
I guess I've had kind of like two parallel things going on through my life. So my parents were first generation farmers. They bought the farm when I was kind of, in primary school. And it's a small farm, I guess. It's probably a big small holding, really. So we've got a small herd of pedigree suckler cattle, belted Galloways for anyone that's interested. And I've always loved the cattle and spent a lot of my time looking after them, being involved in, like which bull should we buy in, which animals should we keep, which ones should we sell on, all that kind of side of things. But then alongside that, I guess I went to university. I studied just straight biology, spent a lot of time just I was really, really excited about like the cool frontier science. And I guess in biology, a lot of that is all around genetics and DNA and things like that. I'm sure other scientists would tell you their area is the frontier area. But for me, it really felt like genetics, and particularly, animal genetics, I think is absolutely fascinating. So studied at the University of Exeter at their campus in Falmouth down in Cornwall, which was
Beautiful.
an amazing place to be a student. Lots of like surfing and things like that. Maybe not the typical student experience, but I had a great time.
I don't know.
And loved it down there. But still kind of kept my science and my farming separate, which looking back was a weird thing to do. But in my mind, I wanted to go down the academic route. I wanted to kind of do proper science. And so actually finished my degree and ended up working in the labs down there at the university. And I mean, what's funny is looking back, it was managing like insect populations to do scientific experiments on. That is farming. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like keeping all these cockroaches and crickets alive and feeding them and cleaning out the containers and doing. It was basically farming, but instead of farming meat or milk or whatever, we were farming data, I suppose.
Instead of 4 legs, 6.
Yes, exactly. So I did that for a little while, and then I guess got my confidence knocked a bit. I didn't think that was necessarily for me and went hunting for something else to do. And I was really lucky that there was this like maternity cover position at the Rare Breed Survival Trust. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I've tried the science for a bit. Maybe I'll go and have a go, and maybe I should be looking more at a career in agriculture. And I was really lucky that I had an amazing boss at RBST, and he really kind of asked me a lot about my career and what I wanted to do, and it was him that made me really think, hang on a minute, why am I keeping science and agriculture separate? There's loads of science about agriculture. In fact, like the genetic stuff that I was so excited about, that like is really important in agriculture. So I was really lucky. He kind of introduced me to some of the right people, and I went up to Edinburgh, the University of Edinburgh, and also SRUC, and did a PhD up there in basically cattle genetics.
Now, you're skipping an important detail here that you've told me previously about fangirling a particular author in Scotland.
Yeah, that's how you have a successful career, is you find someone who wrote a book that you like and you go and bother him until he gives you a job. So
whatever it takes.
Exactly. So there was this book that I loved because it was that perfect mix of like, it was technical, it was like good science in the book, there were a few graphs and that kind of thing, but it was much more like applied, and I knew that like it was the kind of book that I could take home to my mum and she would understand bits of, as well as the science side of things, by a guy called Professor Jeff Sim. And I knew that Jeff worked at SRUC and that he would be up at the Highland Show. So I went to the Highland Show in my role as in the Rare Breed Survival Trust. And I went and found him. And luckily, there were a few things we were dealing with at the time in RBST, particularly about like gene banks, trying to work out which animals we should take semen and embryos from in order to kind of keep that safe in terms of genetic conservation of rare breeds, particularly. And I had some theories about how we should choose animals, but I wasn't sure if I was right. And I wanted to kind of pick Jeff's brains. I knew that he would be the right person to ask. So I went and found him on the stand, the SRUC stand at the Royal Highland Show, and just basically asked him an awful lot of questions for a long time, picked his brains. Fair to him, he sat down with me. I think we got a pen and paper out and drew some diagrams and like properly took me seriously and answered my questions. And at the end of the conversation, kind of went, "Who are you? Why have you come to ask me these things?" And I explained. And he said, "I've got a PhD position coming up in cattle genetics. You should apply for it." And there'd been some other people that had kind of knocked my confidence previously, and I thought that I wasn't qualified and that I wouldn't be able to do a like PhD sounds like a big deal, right? Yeah. I thought that was beyond me. He encouraged me to apply, and I was really surprised to get it, but I did. And I think what was interesting is like looking back on it now and talking to Jeff and other people in academia, they didn't give me the PhD position because I like was really good at maths or anything like that. It was that I really cared about agriculture. I really liked cattle. And they're like, "Well, we can teach you the like technical skills you need. It's really to get through a PhD, you've got to be stubborn. And a bit of passion is basically what gets you through it."
You said to me that you felt the interview was just going south completely for the first 20 minutes. And I guess that was the technical 100%. Element.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else has been in a job interview ever where they ask you a question and your answer is genuinely, "I don't know." I got 5-10 of those like back to back. It felt like the worst interview I'd ever done in my life. I came out of it like 95% sure I hadn't got it. In fact, it was up in Edinburgh, and Edinburgh has like the Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
So I'd like given myself time for my flight back down because I'm from Devon. I'd given myself time to like go and see Edinburgh a bit, maybe kind of check out a bit of what was going on. But I was so grumpy after that interview that I just went straight to the airport and like found myself somewhere to sit. And I just was like, "I'll just wait it out here. I don't want to fall in love with this city. I'm never going to get to go here."
I ain't coming back.
Yeah. And then Jeff rang me whilst I was in the airport and told me that I had got the position, and I was annoyed with myself for having not gone and seen Edinburgh.
Well, that's lovely. That really is the nicest thing. When an employer gets back to you super quick with the good news, just think it's just must have been on such a high.
Totally.
So after that, how long was it before you then start? That would have been in August. The Fringe is normally in July, August time, I think. When did you
and then
start?
I start September.
Yeah,
In
brilliant.
the normal student way. I think not all PhDs start in September, but mine did. So it's a lot of kind of frantic moving my life up there
Yeah,
because I didn't expect to need to. But actually, we were in Edinburgh for, it was about 10 years. So it was strange moving back south again. I miss it. It's a great place to be.
super. So, so then post PhD, or what did you cover in that?
So although I was like, I want to do a PhD that mixes my agricultural knowledge with some of the science, that's not really what it was. It was a PhD looking at crossbreeding strategies for cattle in sub-Saharan Africa. So I think the first thing that I did when I started is I said, I know from my family's perspective, if some student came in and went, I know how you should be farming without having ever spoken to us, I would think they were talking complete rubbish. So I said, I'm not doing any of this work until I go and meet some Africans in sub-Saharan Africa because I don't know what farming there is like.
Quite.
So I was very lucky to get to go out to Kenya a few times and meet some really interesting farmers.
Real eye opener.
Yeah, well, it's things like some of them had particularly some of the dairy farmers, and I don't know that much about dairy farming in the UK, come from a more suckler beef background, but the cooperatives that they have out there, they're selling directly into kind of hotels and things. They get better prices for their milk out there than our farmers do here.
Yeah, why am I not surprised, really, from what I hear? And so that led you to complete the PhD, and what came next, and how long ago are we now talking about when you came back down south?
So there was a little bit of a gap between the PhD and coming down south. I had my daughter at the end of my PhD. I don't think I'd recommend doing a PhD. I definitely wouldn't recommend adding an extra pressure of a deadline at the end of the PhD of having the birth of your first child. It kind of really made me knuckle down and finish it. Yes, exactly. And so
we're talking 6 years ago, so
yeah, 6 years ago now. My daughter's 6 now. And I had a few different kind of options. One of them was actually to go out and continue the research in Africa. I could have moved the whole family to Kenya, but I thought that was a little extreme. And this was just before COVID as well, so I didn't know all that was about to happen when I made these decisions.
right.
But in the end, decided to stay in Edinburgh and work for SRUC, which I think was probably the easy option because it was a group of people that I knew already. But also I knew that I liked the work. I like that SRUC, a lot of their research is very applied, and they've got lots of agriculture undergrad students, so kind of people from farming backgrounds, which I enjoy working with as well. So yeah, stayed at SRUC. It was officially, they call them postdoctoral positions. So it's basically, you've done your PhD, now go and do some actual science for a bit. I worked on a range of things, but mostly like UK based, rather than the African stuff, which I guess makes more sense because that's where my experience was. We did some cool stuff about like the impact of climate on beef cattle. So I did a really cool piece of work. Lots of people I think that like heat stress might not be as big of a deal for beef cattle in the UK, but actually it really is. Like when you look at the effect of the number of heat wave days an animal experiences, it really has a negative impact on how long it takes for particularly like stores to finish. So that was a cool piece of work. And then did also some bits about like meat eating quality. We had a load of steaks in a van at the Highland Show and had members of the public coming in and tasting the steaks and rating them. It was hard work.
Fabulous.
But got some really cool data that we could then look at.
Can I just say, if you're ever running one of them again, can you just like give me a bell?
Of course,
like a dream job.
Yeah, tough life tasting steaks. It was quite hard work arranging it all, much harder than I expected. I think the main thing I learned out of it, I don't know about you, but I thought that if I just looked at a steak whilst it was cooking, I'd be able to tell whether it tasted nice. And what I learned watching all of these steaks being cooked, nope, I totally can't. I was really surprised by that. Because we could taste offcuts, and I was trying to choose the steaks that I thought would be tasty to like have offcuts from. Nope, can't tell by looking, turns out.
I don't know. I've never thought about that before. I've been recently persuaded to give up my preference of sirloin in favour of fillet, which is obviously twice as expensive. But I have to say it was right. You know, it was the right thing to do. So, and now I get all of my my steaks and beef and lamb from my local provider down the road in Ingleby Greenhouse. So Louise Day from New Sheepfold Farm, who I interviewed on a previous episode. So yeah, I'm a convert now to that.
Great.
I turn my nose up in the aisle in the supermarket and walk on. But it does for something like that. It's yeah, it's absolutely worth the extra effort to get that in. So here's a question for you. Do you know any vegans?
Yes.
What do you say to vegans?
I think it really depends on why they're vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I guess if I tell a little story, it's to particularly some vegans. So when I was 16, I saved up money by, if you're interested, buying little Dexters from Exeter Market and halter training them, and then selling them on to kind of smallholder, kind of new people who wanted a little bit of that farming life in Devon. And it was a good way of making a bit of a profit, because a Dexter in Exeter Market is not worth very much money, but if it's halter broken and has a cute name, then it's worth a little bit more money. So I did that for a few summers, saved up enough to go on this trip to Madagascar, because I really wanted to see lemurs in the rainforest. And it was a kind of a wide range of different people that I went to Madagascar with, including some vegetarians and some vegans. And so we basically all ate vegan for quite a lot of the time that we were there, just because it's easier than cooking separate meals when you're in the rainforest. But we'd been there for a couple of weeks, and I was in charge of making lunch and dinner for everyone one of the days. And one of the locals offered me some chickens. And I, at the time, thought, yeah, I could really do with a little bit of, we were doing quite a lot of work planting trees, and I felt like I needed a little bit of meat. It had been a while. So I said yes, and they helped me kind of kill and butcher the chickens. And I kept it completely separate and cooked it up. I think it was like a stew, which is probably best because they were like village chickens. I've no idea how old they were. I'm sure the meat wasn't going to be tender. So we stewed it. And then everyone came back, and it wasn't the vegans that were angry with me. It was the vegetarians that were angry with me. And then there were a few meat eaters that were really angry that I had killed these chickens that they'd seen running around our camp the previous days.
Right.
But actually, the vegans, they weren't going to eat the chicken, but they accepted that, okay, if I was capable of myself killing the chicken, then it was okay for me to eat the chicken. And I almost think it's not veganism that's the problem, it's the kind of disconnect that people have with food. And so I fell out much more big time with actually a few of the meat eaters in the group.
And weird, isn't it? That whole thing of being offended on behalf of other people, and exercising your right to complain about something that actually doesn't affect you or impact your moral judgment.
Yeah.
Weird.
So I think vegans that are like, I don't eat animals because I don't think it's right to kill animals for meat, I kind of can't argue with, because that's just like a moral, fine, fair enough, you do you.
Yeah.
I do like to try and kind of counter some common misconceptions, I suppose. So like when people say, oh, I don't eat meat because of the kind of global warming impact or anything like that, there's a lot of evidence out there that
cow
it's
farts and stuff.
not as simple as people think it is. And that methane is not exactly the same as carbon dioxide, and in a lot of the equations we're not accounting for all of the kind of carbon sequestration that's done by farmland. So yeah, there's some kind of countering some misconceptions. Well, fundamentally, if someone goes, I don't eat animals because I don't think it's right to eat animals, I, you do you.
Yeah,
And I will
yeah,
carry on eating animals.
yeah. No, good answer. So what in the scientific realm, what are the changes that you've seen in your 10 years plus?
I guess specifically in my subject area, like it's genomics.
Mhm.
It's the ability to go, I'm going to take a little sample of the animal, whether that's a tissue sample through an ear tag, or you can even kind of, it's not as effective, but you can do it by taking hair samples because the hair follicles have DNA.
Right. Yeah.
You take that DNA sample, you send it off to a lab. They basically measure what's going on in the DNA, and that's called a genotype. And we stick that into our evaluations, which have got huge amounts of data into the back end of them. It's like supercomputer kind of science, you know?
Yeah.
Stick that all in, and then you get out a measure of the genetic potential of that animal for a range of different things. So it could be meat eating quality, it could be feed efficiency, it could be like how fertile, if you're looking at like suckler cows, like how many calves are they going to have in their life, any of those
Yeah.
things. And I think people think that there's like a gene for this and a gene for that, but really the science is showing there is for a few things, but mostly it's all of the genes all working together, and
Yeah.
genomics allows us to measure that, which I just think is amazing.
Is that lab service something available in the UK? And I ask that because I met a dairy farmer a few months ago who referenced the genomics piece for his herd, but I think he was sending it to the States for the analysis.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I mean, particularly for dairy, AHDB, who I work for, I don't work in the dairy genetics team, but they do genomic testing. It's mostly through like milk recording organizations and things like that. But the data all comes to AHDB, I guess, because we're not going to use the data in any kind of malicious way.
Right.
And then we produce genomic test results. So it's definitely available for dairy cattle in the UK. It's reasonably widely available for sheep as well these days. My colleagues that work on sheep have like really done a lot of new developments recently. There's definitely, yeah, there's a genomic test to see how well your lambs will survive, available for I think most sheep breeds, but maybe not all sheep breeds. Um, and yeah, I mean, I know how important lamb survival is to how profitable a ewe is, so it's an important one. And then in terms of beef, things are a little bit more. There are some genomic tests for some beef cattle, but we're working on making it more widely available for more people.
Interesting. And where do you see the future of it going? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's a whole lot more of working together. So I like for both dairy and sheep, it is a lot of the industry already works together, but in beef, actually a lot of what I do at the moment isn't the science, it's the politics. It's getting all this organization that have this bit of data, this organization that have this bit of data to go, you know what? It's in the interests of the beef industry as a whole to work together, put all this data in one pot, and then provide results that are that much more powerful for our beef farmers. And
Yeah.
also, all of the tools aren't as powerful as they could be. So I'm doing, I guess I thought my job was be a scientist, but actually I'm doing a whole lot of like being, I guess, a politician. I don't know, getting people together in rooms and going, you know what? We all care about the beef industry. We should all work together so that we
Mm.
can, like, basically the tools available for farmers are as simple and as powerful as they can be.
Yeah, that collaboration piece. I mean, it's common across lots of industries, isn't it? People are siloed, for want of a better word, in their thinking and what their intellectual property is. But I get the impression, or certainly the people I've spoken to, have a desire to share and to learn from one another. So I think there's from my limited knowledge of the last year that I've been focused on understanding this industry, it seems like a healthy appetite for collaboration.
Completely agree. And actually, farmers are really good at learning from each other. I think sometimes it's just the kind of, I guess, industry stakeholders we need to get to work together as well as farmers will work together.
Yeah, the thing that bugs me or worries me is that having come from an industry where tech was pervasive, and I was part of it. I was in software sales for a while. When I hear politicians or industry leaders talk about tech being the answer to agriculture's woes, or certainly it needs to be applied to get the improvements that are sought, I instantly go to thinking about the tech companies making all of the money, and that still won't improve the lot of the farmer. He's still going to be in that supply chain at the bottom of the pile, not reaping the benefits of, because it's very easy for software as a solution and tech providers to take their cut, and they're on a sweet sort of monthly recurring revenue model. Is that necessarily going to trickle down to the farmer applying it?
I agree. And I think that's where I think that we have to work together as an industry. And I would like to hope that there's lots of farmers out there that think us together as an industry includes AHDB. We're not a company trying to make a profit here with a levy body. To mean that those kind of tools are available outside of these large companies that are trying to make a profit over providing the tool. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you can see it in machinery sales. They're when pinched on new machinery sales, are looking at all of the angles around the software solutions in the cab and upgrades and add-ons and things like that. And I even had a chat with somebody at the Yorkshire Agricultural Show last year about that, and I could just see his brain sort of ticking over towards these new packaged services, if you like. And I don't know, I've sort of got my antennae up a little bit talking to someone in that space.
I think what's cool about genetic evaluations is it's taking data that is, in a lot of cases, the farmer's data. So like age at first calving is a data point that we can get out of BCMS, that all farmers have to put in the dates of birth for their animals and the calving dates for their animals. So that is data that the farmer is already supplying.
Yeah.
But if we combine that data with all these other bits of data, then we can provide something useful back that can then be, okay, this bull, all of his daughters had really good age at first calving. So let's keep running him on again, or let's keep one of his sons as a bull, that kind of thing. It's not I'm not about making loads of extra work for farmers. It's okay, what's out there already? Can we use that to provide useful insights?
Yeah, in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So it's a fascinating area that I feel like I can only scratch the surface on with you, Harriet. It really is. What do you want to be the next stage of your development in this area? What do you see, or do you sit and think about what it needs to look like in 5 or 10 years' time for you? It's clear your passion is about the applied science. So yes, you understand the technicalities, but you're coming at it from a very practical point of view, very people-oriented point of view.
Totally. And I think actually, as I have kind of progressed through my career, I do less and less of all of the maths and making the graphs, and more of going, okay, I have this graph. I trust the scientist that made this graph. I'm going to go and take it to this group of farmers, and we're going to sit and chat about it and go, does this make sense to you? Do you understand this? Trying to get it in as real a language as possible. And I don't even mean simple, because actually some of the ways that I explain some of our results to farmers, they're like geneticists that I work with, they don't know that much about like what it's actually like calving cows and all that kind of thing. So actually it's not simple language, it's just a different sort of technical language. It's like technical for farming language. So yeah, getting these kind of complex ideas in a way that can be understood and can be useful. And then it's that like two-way street of things as well. So it's in those farmer groups. I had a really great chat a few weeks ago. So, you know, dairy beef is like a bigger and bigger thing. It's funny because I think when a lot of people talk about beef, they think about like our lovely herds of suckler cows out grazing and all of that. But actually, we're getting to the point now where it's just short of 50% of the prime beef had a dairy mother. So
Right.
actually, in terms of genetics, it's dairy farmers that are making a lot of the like breeding decisions that impact the beef that we eat in the UK.
Right.
So I'm doing more talking to dairy farmers. I don't know about dairy farming. I like have a very basic understanding. I've never like worked on a dairy farm, so I'm doing a lot of learning at the moment.
So is this where we're talking about crossing a dairy cow with a beef bull?
100%.
Bred for beef. And then, therefore, if my understanding is correct, the genetics behind all the required improvements on a dairy cow is longevity, whereas for beef cattle, it's shorter lifespan but improved quality of muscle. And those two, is it about combining those two?
So it's not
things?
really kind of like, I mean, lifespan is sort of by the by. Like it doesn't matter if the dairy beef calf has good long life genetics. It will just live as long as it needs to live to kind of grow through. So it won't be any younger than the suckler beef that's being produced. Probably about a similar age.
Right.
The real kind of, I guess, like trade-off is that for a dairy cow, the most important thing is that she has an easy calving. Because if
Yeah.
that calf is difficult to get out, worst case scenario, she dies. And that's really, really bad. But there's a lot of other, like less extreme, where even just if she's had a bit of a difficult calving, it will have a really like knock-on effect on how much milk she produces.
Yeah.
So she'll find it harder to get back in calf, and also she might produce a bit less milk.
Yeah.
So easy calving, most important thing to the dairy farmer. When it comes to using a beef bull, oh, and I probably need to explain that about sexed semen. Is this something that you're aware of?
Yeah, go for that. No, I have no idea. Tell us.
So when you're breeding dairy cows, right, you don't really need male calves because male calves aren't going to produce you more milk.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool bit of science where basically, because we do artificial insemination mostly with dairy, where there isn't actually a natural service, the bull isn't mating. We just basically take a straw of semen and inseminate the cow that way. So rather than having semen that's got like both male and female sperm in it, they do some very cool tech to make it so that all of the sperm, or almost all of the sperm, in the straw is female. So that means that those cows only have heifer calves, which is much better because the males were like a byproduct basically in the past.
Yeah.
So sex semen is great news, really good news for the dairy industry. And like, I'm really proud of the UK dairy industry because adoption of sex semen here is so much higher than it is anywhere else in the world. Our dairy farmers have really gone, this solves a big problem that we had. We're just going to use it. And they have. So even though, I mean, people are always a bit scared of new things coming through, but it's made a really big positive impact. There are some countries abroad where they have problems with male calves that are maybe being killed at birth, which is a big kind of like, the consumer doesn't want that.
No.
I think there's generally globally, it's not a huge problem anymore. But in the UK specifically, we're great at making sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, sex semen is a big deal. But once you have sex semen, you then don't need to breed all of your cows to produce your replacement heifers because you'd end up with way too many heifer calves. So basically that's where the beef comes in, because then the ones that aren't going to sex semen, you just put a beef bull over them and you produce a calf that will be a good beef product.
Gotcha. Simples.
Yeah. So if calving ease is your number one important thing, the easiest way to get a good calving ease is to choose a beef bull who's got really small genetics, as in like his calves will be really small.
Right.
But I think you can see where the problem there is for beef, right?
Yes.
We don't want tiny calves when it comes to beef, because small calves, on average, then produce smaller carcasses
Yeah.
or take longer to grow. So it is this trade-off between calving ease and growth rates that we want for beef.
Yeah.
But I think the exciting thing is that we can find bulls that have genetics that does both. We just need to use data to do that. And that's what the breeding companies, those kind of big guys that sell a lot of semen into dairy farms, are doing already. They have done for a long time.
Fascinating. Who knew?
Yeah. So I feel like I've gone on a big long round thing, but what I was trying to say is that it's, when I go out and talk to farmers, it's that two-way thing. So I've done a lot of going and talking to dairy farmers about beef genetics recently, and that's new for them, I think, because in a lot of cases in the past they've just gone with whatever beef semen the semen salesman happens to have in the tank. But these days, so it's new for them. It's also new for me because I don't know about dairy farming. So I can go and talk to them about beef genetics. They learn a bit from me and I learn an awful lot from them. So we can go back and go, okay, let's think again. How do we make sure that information we have on beef genetics is useful for dairy farmers?
It's back to that thing you said earlier about this sort of siloed industry with expertise. You know, it's to the non-agricultural person, a cow is a cow is a cow. But when you break it down into the various practices that have maybe gone on for decades, and then try to introduce something new based on the science, that must be, well, your force of personality must bring that to life when you're talking to people who haven't yet learnt the science. So I'm sure that's really that's where your future lies, really, in conveying that, so that technicians and non-technicians alike understand the importance of it.
And I think for me, it's that kind of, I'll try not to go with too much force of personality, but it's that like, just remembering
that's
to
a
be
bad thing.
to some people it is, but it's like going in with that little bit of humility where you're like, okay, I know loads about genetics. I got a PhD in genetics, but I don't know about how you farm your farm. You know that way better than me. So I'll come with some knowledge, you come with some knowledge, and we'll learn together, you know?
Yeah. No, perfect. Oh, I feel like I need to go read that book by Jeff Sims now.
I'll send you a link, Bev.
Thank you very much. No, fascinating, Harriet. Thanks so much for sparing the time and finding a way to get it through my numbskull. But it's an exciting time, I think, in the industry. What would you like to be your parting shot?
I guess it's like that when it comes to scientists giving you guys information, it's like you choose how to use that. Like don't take it like someone's telling you how to farm. It's just someone's trying to give you information so that you can work out the best way for you to farm.
Yeah. There's a lot of commentary, I think, about show don't tell, but it seems to be lots of talking heads explaining about the things that should be done by farmers in farming, which must be really irritating to
100%.
Yeah. So it's got to come from a place where there's a trusted relationship and a sharing of that. So good luck with what you're doing. I've no doubt you're going to make a huge success out of it. And it's been terrific talking to you. So thanks so much for spending some time with me.
Thanks, Bev. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for coping with my ramblings about genetics.
I've just got to come up with a title now and steer clear of sexed semen.